Welcome back to 755 Forever. I'm David O'Brien, at the race writer at The Athletic. I'm with my co-host, Eric O'Flaherty. What's going on, Eric?
Late night episode.
Very, very, very late night episode. I just got to my hotel here in Chicago, um, and we got to be in the clubhouse at 9:30 in the morning, and I'm looking outside, and I think we're going to be in the clubhouse for naught because it is pouring rain and 40 degrees. It's going to be brutal, man. Trying to get in. I mean, you know how they always try to get them in, but when you look at the forecast the next 3 days, I don't see where they're going to squeeze 5 innings in for one game. I could see them coming back here for a doubleheader on a mutual day off at some point this season. Who knows? Maybe we'll have a miracle and the forecast will clear up a little bit. But right now it's one of those where there's not even windows. It's just like 60%, 70% chance of rain, turn into snow on Wednesday, like with an inch of snow.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I
so
hate it. I mean, as a player, I hated it, but
yeah.
I wonder how, even people trying to get to these games feel about it. Just planning your whole Saturday around it.
Oh,
And I wonder how people in, colder states, northern states would feel about their team just spending the first 2 weeks on the road.
yeah. Well, and Braves fans, there's plenty of them out here in the Midwest. They always go to the big games in
Yeah.
Milwaukee, both Chicago places. So they've got these tickets. They bought them as soon as the schedule came out.
Yeah.
So you've got the tickets. You don't know if they're going to bang the game. So what do? You come down here on Easter weekend, ready for this 3-game series, and you're
Yep.
sitting in your hotel tonight in the pouring rain and 40 degrees. Going, am
And
I
you
going to
have
go
to
out and
stay
sit there?
tomorrow hoping it happens.
Yeah. So, but anyway, let's talk about what happened in Philadelphia this weekend. Oh, by the way, this episode that we were taping late at night is recapping the Phillies series is brought to you by Joe Van Gogh Coffee. Blend number 44. Visit joevangogh.com for more information. That's our sponsor out of North Carolina. Great coffee, by the way, and I'm drinking some of it right now to stay awake. But we did get lucky with the weather in Philly. It was chilly, but it was really nice and sunny and breezy, but it didn't disrupt anything. And I thought there was a whole lot to like about what happened with the Braves. They didn't win today, blew a lead 3-1, lost 5-4, but their offense was every bit as hyped and more in the first two games. And they did that against well, they didn't do it against Wheeler because they did it against the bullpen after he left the game, but they lit up Nola, man. I mean, they were all over Nola. He didn't even look
Yeah.
like the same guy. So I thought there was a lot to like about the offense, which is even better now with Kelenic. Man, talk about a lot to like. Kelenic looked good, really good. Made some adjustments to the swing,
Made a play in the outfield.
eliminated his leg kick in the last couple of weeks of spring training, simplified everything, taking a short stride to the ball now, and he's seeing the ball better than he said he's ever seeing it. And he's 5 for 7 in that series, and had a lot of good takes. And we saw his tools in the outfield because he made a spectacular leap and catch
Yeah.
in left center. And then today, the other half of that left field platoon, Duvall made a great throw to second base to cut down Castellanos trying to stretch a single to a double. So and then you saw after he did it, you saw the emotion that Chris Sale showed, and it was just
Yeah.
an example of what we saw today from Chris Sale, which I thought was dynamite, man. This
Yeah.
guy, he's got a lot left in the tank. He topped out 97 today, averaged about 95 point with the fastball. The sliders were as good as ever. And I really like he hardly ever missed with the fastball. Everything was on the edges of the zone for the most part or outside the zone. And you look at the spray chart and guys were swinging and missing at pitches 6 inches outside the zone.
Well, he makes the
Fastballs.
zone so big, because he's got the angle to start with, and the ball's coming in across the plate almost. It's coming from that first base side.
Yeah.
But his breaking ball on top of that is it's always like this when you watch a lefty slider on TV, but his breaking ball looks like it moves 4 feet.
Yeah.
So he throws a breaking ball that looks like it starts off the plate and breaks down and into a righty, so it's like ball to ball, but it crosses the whole plate. And then his four-seamer comes out of that same spot, and it has that little bit of ride and tail to it.
Yeah.
So he's got the four seamer up. That's tough to lay off because that might be a slider. So you got to start swinging. He's got the slider down and in that might be a fastball in that he'd throw for a strike. He threw plenty of good fastball ins today, which I think is a game changer for a lefty. And when he misses with that fastball, it's like up and away. And from his angle, that's still really difficult for righties to get to and to lay off. So I just think he makes the zone look enormous to hitters.
He went 5 1/3. Really solid outing. Gave up a solo homer to well, obviously solo. It was a leadoff homer to
Schwarber.
Schwarber on the second pitch he threw after Ozzie had a 2-run homer in the top of the first. So he gives up that homer, and you're like, uh-oh. But then he just totally settled in after that. I mean, Schwarber just ambushed him basically. But after that, he gets like 12 outs in the next 14 batters, striking out guys looking, striking out
Hmm.
guys swinging, mixing the slider with the 95, 97 mile an hour fastball, do a few changeups and sinkers, but for the most part, he just needs those two pitches. And it was not just the stuff too. It was everything about the outing, the presence he
Yeah.
has out there. He got out of a jam. He had bases loaded, none out. Gets Schwarber hitting a double play grounder and strikes out Turner.
Was that the
One
one
run.
looking? Was Turner struck out looking, right?
Yeah, we gave up one run in that
Yeah.
bases loaded, none out. And that showed me something. But just his whole demeanor out there was just so different than what we're used to seeing from, younger guys or guys that aren't as accomplished. You know, if this guy stays healthy, this is a frontline starter. This is a guy that's a 1 or 2 for a lot of teams. And Braves have got him in the 3 spot. It's impressive. He felt great, said he felt strong throughout. And he said, not gonna get too excited. He said, you don't throw confetti in March. I mean, he's got such a good perspective.
Yeah.
But I thought maybe the highlight of the day that got everybody jacked up on the team was when Snit came out to get him, 5 1/3 innings, puts a glove to his face and he's kind of shouting, and we're going, uh-oh, he's upset. But that wasn't it. He was shouting. He went to each of the guys in the circle there and said, "Let's go." He goes, "I love being here. Love being here with you guys. Let's finish this off. Let's keep doing this." I mean, they were all like, "Wow," you know. He
In
had kind of
March.
message. Yeah, he had a
This is
message for
March.
all of them.
Yeah.
You
That's
know.
cool.
So Riley said, "Yeah, it was great, man. I love playing behind guys like that." I said, "Can you believe he's 35?" And he said, "He's got so much energy. He's probably been like this his whole career. With
Yeah.
that burning desire that he has." But you'd never know that this is a guy that for almost a decade, for 7, 8 years was one of the elite guys in baseball. And then for the past 5 years, he's had injuries because right now he's out there like it's, hey, I'm in the middle of my prime. He's 35. He just turned 35 on Saturday. But it was just the energy, the excitement, the want to be out there. He's just rejuvenated, I think, by being healthy for one thing, but being on a contender where he knows these guys are going to pick him up if he needs to, and it's just different vibe than what he had in those last years in Boston when he was always hurt, and then they weren't any good the last couple of years.
I think that's the kicker is just not playing for anything. He's made his money. He's had his accomplishments. He's had the fame. Like he's been everything you want to be as a starting pitcher in the game. But now you're at that point where it's like I'm running out of years to get a ring or win a
Yeah,
championship and do these things that's what you want to taste and feel. And even for me going to the playoffs and being out in the first round, it's just like that was still the coolest thing I've ever done or been a part of. Those games, being in that and being a part of a group. And there's certain guys like him that they just have this passion that you can't fake. When a guy
yeah.
tries to be that guy and it's not really who he is, it's it doesn't have an effect on you. But when he's doing stuff like that, you don't draw that up. Like that's just who he is. It comes out organically, and you can't help but feel that energy and absorb it.
It was it looks now like such an astute move to
Yeah,
sign him to that 2-year deal immediately after getting him. Make him feel like he's part of the team. He's not just here for 1 year rental to try to
yeah.
try to reset and get another contract. He's here. He's part. They wanted him to be part of this. So it's that was big because he's just blended into the clubhouse just like he's been here forever, man. And the guys just love it. The guys really like this guy. So
I don't even know
that
him, and I like him.
Yeah,
You
that
know?
was impressive. And the fact that he went out of his way to talk about all the guys that made plays for him today, and then to really praise Chadwick Trump, comes up from
Hmm.
AAA a couple of days ago, makes his season debut, catching Chris Sale, and he said Trumpy back there he was on point the entire day. He goes, he helped me get through those tough innings. He said it was really good back there. So that was cool for him to go out of his way to praise Trump. So I can see Snit pairing Trump with him as long as Murphy's on the IL. Because Snit said he was going to, without going into specifics, he had said he had in mind certain guys he was going to pair with him, to kind of spread the workload. Because Darno's 35, he's not going to be catching 5 games in a row like Murphy did when Darno was out. So I could see Trump catching him. I don't know who else it might catch, but I could see him doing that for sure until Murphy gets back.
Yeah, you definitely want to run that back. You know,
Yeah,
if it goes well and you're short with your staff or your catchers, it's like, why not just that work, do it again? And maybe he catches somebody else and it goes really well and you match them up, and another dude it kind of goes rough with and they just can't get on the same page. It's nothing against the catcher, but certain guys just work well together.
yeah. How do you get ready for a day game after a night game? A superb cup of coffee or two or three is a great way to start. Or for me, six. Joe Van Gogh Coffee suggests blend number 44, so named in remembrance of Hall of Famer and Braves legend Henry Aaron. What better brew to pour into your 755 Forever mug than a coffee honoring Hammer and Hank, the author of 755 Big League Home Runs? For a limited time, find our blend number 44 at joevangogh.com and enter the code HAMMER at checkout to receive an additional 20% off your purchase. That's pretty damn good, man. Joe Van Gogh has been roasting and serving coffee for 30 years and following the Braves through each and every one of them. Visit joevangogh.com, just like it sounds, Joe Van Gogh, JoeVanGogh.com, to get your wake up call in time for opening day. Well, you missed opening day, but get it for the first game of this White Sox series, which is going to be played in the rain, if it's played. So get some. This is coffee drinking weather. Um, so beyond that, okay, there's so many things that were really encouraging that happened, but a couple of them. Consecutive 3-hit games to start the year for Michael Harris too, and for Orlando Arcia. I mean, Harris literally last year when he had the 2 injuries and he was just woeful for the first 2 months of the season, he got healthy. He was terrific for the last 100 games of the season. Numbers are off the charts, like 900 some OPS, 340 something OBP, power, everything. He continued that through spring training. He had the best spring
Hmm.
on anybody. He was about the only guy on the team that had a great spring. And now he's just picked it up right now as the regular season's got it underway. 3 hits in each of the first 2 games. I mean, this dude's for real, man. I was talking to Seitz about him, Kevin Seitzer about him today. We forget how young he is because he's a special player, man. He's a superstar in the making.
He'd be a special player if he was a good center fielder,
Yeah,
you know, and he's one of the best, if not the
yeah,
best. And I
yeah,
never worry about him, especially the way he bounced back. I think your first big test is that first huge slump you have in the majors. That's
yeah,
your test of like, can you maintain your confidence? Can you turn this thing around? And if once a guy is in that space and gets out of it and comes back
yeah.
with his talent, like now it's time to take off. I don't even think he's shown us what he can do yet.
He went 6 for 13 with a double, a homer, a couple of RBIs in the 3-game series in Philly. Orlando Arcia 6 for 12 with 3 doubles in the series. Jared Kelnick, after everybody was worrying about him because he slumped for most of the spring training, we're going, fans are going, they've never seen him. So they're thinking, oh, okay, why did we move hell and high water to get this dude? Well, he goes 5 for 7 in his first 3 games as a Brave with a double, couple RBIs, 1 walk, no strikeouts. Yeah, 1607 OPS, but a couple of spectacular plays in the outfield. Really moves well out there. A lot to like about this kid, man. Really,
Uh,
you talk to everybody and he's just a sponge that
yeah,
he wants to be great. He doesn't want to be good. He wants to be great.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, in this group, that's what you're gonna have to do to stand out. But I thought he had good at bats. You know, I thought he was on pitches. I thought he looked good. I was starting to doubt my prediction of, 25 homers by
Right.
the break during spring training. I was like, I shouldn't have
Yeah.
said that. But, it just takes, I think in his stage, it just takes confidence and that swing clicking. Because he wasn't, I think it was the fourth overall pick. It was a really high pick. He's had the tools this whole time. He's had all the expectations, and that's a lot to live up to. But you get this fresh start, put in the work all spring. I mean, it'd be huge for him to be like this all year.
When I talked to Sites this morning about him, and Sites said when he got him, we've talked about how Kevin gets guys and doesn't immediately try to change
Yeah,
guys and doesn't try to cookie cutter people. He wants to get to know them. And he said, I had a lot of conversations with him, long conversations, to let him know I'm right there beside you, man. And I'm going to ask you questions. How do you feel? I'm going to give you suggestions. If you like it, if you like a tweak that I suggest, use it. If you don't, punt it and go to the next one. He goes, but I'm going to ask you how you feel with all this. And he said the kid worked so hard. And he told him they made the adjustments to the swing, a lot of things to slow. He had a lot of hand movement. He wanted to get rid of that. They got rid of that. The last thing he did was Kelnick came to him and said, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of worrying about my leg and getting it down and timing it. And I'm just going to get rid of that. And and Sight said that's smart because he's got so much power. He doesn't need to
strong enough.
have that. All he
Yeah,
needs is just a little step. That's all he needs. And he said, I'm not going to worry about power. I'm going to worry about making contact, getting base hits because he wasn't getting any hits in spring. So sure enough, the last week of camp, he has a double, triple, and a home run when all he's trying to do is get hits. Sight said that's when I knew things are clicking for him. So for him to figure that out before the season started, I think was so key, man. And to go in now and have success, have some results from some fruits of his labor of a struggle all spring. Huge. I mean, now he's playing with confidence, and he likes this arrangement with Duvall because he's going to get most of the playing
gonna
time
get good
probably.
matchups.
Yeah,
He's gonna get good matchups.
yeah. So, and that's a guy they have 5 years of control for. So, I'm sure he's smart enough to know Duvall's here for 1 year.
Yeah,
Great year to get your feet wet. I mean, and I hate to see it because Duvall's played great and he looks great, but he had another one of those catch attempts today where Kelnick probably makes the catch because he's a little faster, but and it was a big hit because it dropped for 2 runs on Bummer. But what made me cringe was he does that sliding catch where he puts
yeah,
his
with the
wrist
wrist.
out. It
Mhm.
was the exact same thing that happened when he tore it up before. Exactly
Yeah,
the same movement. It went back again, but he got up no problems. But that's far from being the same injury, I think. Man, you think somebody could tell him? It's like, dude, I know that's like instinctive, but you
yeah.
gotta stop trying to make that sliding catch with your arm out to the side because his glove catches and his wrist goes back.
I think in those moments though, your athleticism and instincts just take over. I don't know if you can.
Yeah,
Some guys can, some guys can't. I mean, it's just you're not going to be trying to go get a ball and thinking about like don't get hurt. It's
yeah.
just catch that damn ball.
I got to think if he does that same injury to that wrist again and tears
Yeah,
those ligaments again, that's going to be tough to come back from, man.
yeah,
And that would be a shame because he really looks good. He's in great shape. He's even bigger than he was before, man.
yep. Got some big
Put
knocks.
together. Dude's put
Yeah,
together. Yeah, he's got huge power.
he's
Duvall can hit it.
yeah,
He can hit it a ton.
yeah,
And the two late additions the last week of camp, him and Jesse Chavez. How about Jesse going out there? I mean, come on. Max Fried, they knocked Max Fried out in the first inning, and the Phillies still end up getting their asses kicked in that game. I mean, Jesse comes in and goes 3 innings in his first appearance. And he said, and there was some nerves because I go out there, I haven't pitched in a week. All he's done is
yeah.
work on the backfields. And he's throwing out in Arizona all spring. He goes, my ball moves different. I'm not one of these guys that goes out there throwing 90. It reminded me of you because he said, I'm not out there throwing 97, 98 up in the zone. He goes, I did that before it was cool. He goes, but I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah,
doing
he
that
did.
anymore. He said, I'm not doing that anymore. He goes, I got to feel and touch. And he said, my ball moves different now in Arizona than it does over here on this side of
Yep.
the country. So he had some nervousness, he said, and he goes out there and to get those results. He said, just coming into this environment, because it's just crazy, man. He's done it 6 times now, and he'll go over and struggle with somebody, and every time he comes over here and pitches well. He said, it's just like coming home. I know everybody here. They treat me great. It's like
Yep.
family. They know me. They trust me. He said there's that trust factor between him and them and him. You know, he trusts the coaches here, the manager, the guys in the bullpen, the catchers. Said haven't seen Travie put down fingers for him. You know, it's just like, and it's like he just turns back the clock, and all of a sudden he's effective
I
Jesse
know.
again.
Yep.
40 years old, but he
Yeah,
saved that
comfort.
game. He saved that game.
It's such a huge, uh, like you change the next however many games when you do that. Because if he
Yeah,
goes in there and panics, and somebody else has to get it up early, and they're not prepared for it, and they give up a 5 spot, and then the whole pen has to pitch, and then you have a
yeah,
long game today, or
yeah,
in Chicago you have a long game, and all of a sudden you get to a point where you need 2 or 3 relievers, and they're down because Jesse didn't do his job,
yeah.
which the job he did isn't even what you expect him to do. It's like if he gives up 4, but he eats 3 or 4 innings, you're happy. He kept the game where it was.
Right.
He did a great
Gave
job.
up 1 run, 2 hits.
There's very few guys that can fit into that role where you got your feet up and Max Fried's on the mound. Like, I'm not even
Yeah,
pitching today.
right.
I know my role. I know where I'm at. You're chilling in the first inning, and all of a sudden you're throwing. Like to mentally lock in that quick is really hard. And he just goes out there, no matter what situation you throw him into, he'll just take the ball and battle until you ask for it back.
So he basically got them almost to where they would hope Max would have got them. You
Yep.
know, I mean, so they didn't have to use 3 other
Anybody. Yeah.
relievers to get through that game. And then after having the bullpen cover 8.5 innings to or cover 8 1/3 innings, you have Sale step up today and go 5 1/3, get him in the 6th inning.
Yep.
So that worked out. Turns out they might not need all the pitching here in Chicago, but you don't know that. You don't want to burn through your bullpen. But and then the first night here, Strider was outstanding. He was
Yep.
dominant. And the matchup with Wheeler lived up to all the hype. I mean, Wheeler went another inning past Strider. Strider pitched great. And then the bullpen came in and it worked exactly like you'd hoped it would work. You had 4 guys going in a piece, and they were nearly perfect. Bummer gave up a little bit in the last run, gave up a run in the ninth. But like Olson pointed out, Matt pointed out, what does it say about this team's depth when you've got a guy, an arm like Bummer, pitching in a 7-run game in the 9th inning?
Yep.
You know, Chavez said he was talking to Sale yesterday about how they have 8 guys down there who could be setup men or closers for most teams.
Yeah. I thought Bummer threw the ball pretty well today.
I
I
did
mean, it was
too.
just tough breaks
He could have easily gotten out of that with nothing. You get
twice.
that double play,
Yep.
it's not overturned. He's out of that,
Yeah.
and then he gives up 4 singles.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't look good. It doesn't look good on paper at all. But if you're watching the outing, you know how close he was to getting out of it with nothing. So
It's crazy too, like when things haven't been going your way or you have a rough year, how much of a game like today is just your mindset. And you can almost will yourself through those outings, and you can will yourself into good luck. But if you don't have the confidence, you just need momentum. You need a few breaks. He needed that double play today.
yeah,
And then you're rolling. It's crazy how much things can swing on those little plays. But
yeah.
watching him throw, this is a game that if I'm him, I go home and I feel good about it. I'm like, I threw the ball well. They weren't barreling stuff. His stuff's nasty. He's throwing 94. Got the cutter, the breaking ball, tough angles on the lefties. He's going to have a good year if he just stays level.
And Max Fried going back to coulda, shoulda, would have, but the pitch to Castellanos, that was one of the
Yeah.
worst calls you're going to see. I mean, it was 3 inches below the top of the zone. Castellanos was walking to the dugout, but I thought it was strike 3, so he's out of the inning. That's it. And then the bottom fell out.
I want to see an umpire not be about to call it. He's about to call it a ball, and then the hitter starts walking. He kind of double looks at him. He's like, all
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
we're good. Let's ring him up.
He was walking towards the dugout. He took a step, and he was like, "Oh, okay, all right." So after that, I mean, but you got to keep pitching, obviously, and Max didn't get guys out after that. But I mean, he could have got out of that inning. Maybe the whole
Yep.
thing's different. But they had guys come in and cover. Chavez was terrific. Matt Olson. I mean, the first game, his 30th birthday, the opening day got pushed back a day because of the rain. So he gets to play on his 30th birthday, which would have been an off day. He gets 3 doubles on his 30th birthday. He starts the year with 3 doubles, then
Yeah.
hits a home run. I mean, and the oppo power, 2 of those doubles were straight down the left field line.
Yeah.
He was really, he liked to see that because he said he was really, he was late on some pitches um, at spring training because he didn't have a good spring training at all after having an unbelievable spring training a year ago, which led
Yep.
into the year that he had. But this year he didn't do anything in spring training. Starts the first game out with that, and the 2 doubles to the left field corner, another to right field corner, hits a home run to right field. So he looked good. Ozzie Albies, each of the last 2 games has hit a 2-run homer in the first inning. Cunha got on with an infield hit 2 days ago, and today or Sunday, he walks and gets on base, and Albies hits a 2-run homer both times. So another guy that spring training didn't do anything. But again, these guys are like Sid says it all the time, and people get worried, but it's like they just don't care about the stats as long as they
No.
feel good and they're
Yeah.
getting the work in and they're healthy. And they were healthy. That was the thing. Nobody got hurt in spring training this year, which was when that can happen, it's a good sign. You're going to start things off right. But so coming out of the gate, man, they had that most of the guys have really looked good. The one negative, obviously, the big negative was losing Sean Murphy.
Yeah.
But it could have been, when he took that swing, you knew exactly what it was. He grabs his left side.
Yep.
And it was like the only surprise is that he didn't know it last year when he was taking those mammoth swings on every swing he
Oh my
took.
God.
You know, he'd miss a ball last year, and you're like, how does he not pull his something? Intercostal, oblique.
If I did one
And
of those, I'd be sore for a week.
he did this one on a foul tip. It wasn't a particularly huge swing, but the good news was did an MRI the next day, and it's a grade 1. So that's the best. So if it had been a grade 4 or whatever, you're probably going to lose him for 2 months. So it's still going to take some time because you cannot rush him back, especially a catcher. You can't make
No.
him bring him back. McCann came back too early that time, at the end of his career from one of those, and it didn't go away. But so they'll be careful. And the good news is they got the luxury that very few teams do of being able to have him take his time because
Yeah.
Garneau and Chadwick Trump is a guy that if he had options, asked Snit if he had options, you think he'd stick with somebody as a backup? He said, absolutely. When he runs out of options, he's got some team that has a good frontline catcher will use this guy as a backup, and he'll be a really good backup. He's a solid catcher, and he's had some big hits for those guys too in his very limited time playing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're in a better situation than almost any team would be when you look around the league at just the drop off from your everyday guy that's catching 4 out of 5 to your backup that calls a
Yeah,
good game. And most of it might be kind of changing now, but I don't think so much. Most of the time, your backup is just calls a good game and he's going to hit somewhere
yeah,
on the Mendoza line, maybe run into a homer, but he's kind of an out. And he's just on the team because your catcher needs a day off. Never do you have a guy that's a possible all-star just
right.
sitting there ready to go. It
I
never
mean,
happens.
Darno was an all-star 2 years ago. I mean,
Yeah.
he was one of the best hitters on the team at the World
Yeah.
Series year.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's 35 now, so he can't do it as much, but he's still the trust that he has with the pitchers. You can't beat it. I mean, they love throwing to the guy. So, but he's far from just an out. That guy's a good hitter. So we'll see how often he catches. But yeah, I think you're probably looking at, you know,
2 or 3.
yeah, 2 or 3 weeks with Murphy instead of,
Yeah.
2 months if it had been a grade 3, grade 4. So we'll see. And he's a big dude, strong guy. So I don't think he's not frail or anything. So he probably be back a little sooner than we expect. But we'll see. That was really the only negative out of there. I mean, Bummer had a couple of outings where he gave up runs, but like we said, he was throwing the ball well, and the other pitchers really Free. That's not any cause for concern. He was just missing. I mean, I'm not. Freed looked great in spring training, and he's healthy. So when he slipped fielding that ball, that
That's what scared
squib,
me.
that
Yeah.
scared me too. And I thought that was the problem because he didn't get the next two guys out. And I thought, oh, that's something, and it's going to tighten up when he gets to the dugout. But after the game, he's fine. He goes, no, I felt fine. He made no excuses. But yeah, he almost did the splits, and you're like, he's got those long limbs, and it's like that's when he does a hamstring,
Yeah.
a groin. Last year he gets a hamstring on the opening day. So you're going, oh, not again, man. His first start, he's going to go out with a groin strain. But no, he's fine health wise. He didn't get hurt at all. And he was in a good mood afterwards too. So you could tell with Max afterwards when he's not hanging his head, you could tell that he's not concerned about anything that happened. He just was that's a really good team, man. You can't forget the Phillies that they just took 2 out of 3 from. That's a hell of a lineup.
No, and those games had that feeling that a lot of them did. I mean, you score 2 in the top and they homer lead off.
Yeah.
Or they come right back. They had that slugfest feel to them. But I thought the Braves did a great job pitching to that lineup. But one funny thing, I was listening to the broadcast today, and they were saying Harper had a scheduled day off. And they kept bringing up it has nothing to do with him falling into the dugout and whatever. I'm like, no, it's
Right.
because Sale's pitching.
Uh-huh.
That's why he didn't want to face Sale.
Absolutely.
We're going to let you avoid this incredibly tough matchup, this angle, everything that Sales bring. Take a day.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they are going to give him days off and rest him and everything, but that was about Chris Sale being on the mound.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no doubt. The crowds, by the way, were so ready to explode like they did in the postseason, and the Braves took them out of it both of those first 2 games. They went from booing the Braves introductory. It was just like the postseason introductions. They booed Arcia. Oh my God. And those guys were loving it. They were like, yeah, they were egging him on and everything. And then Arcia gets 3 hits to shut him up. But they took them out of it, and then they were booing their own relievers. So it's like Harris said, they're going to boo. That's what they do. So it's like the secret is you got to have them booing at the right for the right reason. Yeah. So it's like that's a good point. They're going to boo. They can't just not boo.
Yeah, I can't. I was kind of watching, going back and forth between the broadcasts, but I think it was our broadcast that they started out booing the Braves, and then they just switched to the Phillies, and they've just been booing the entire series.
Yeah. And Charlie Martin goes, yeah, it was really fast. Yeah, how fast they turned. It was like, it's like just a couple of batters, and all of a sudden they're booing their guys.
Yeah.
But there was a great moment after the second game. Arcia had another 3-hit game, a couple big hit, and he's sitting with Ozzie. He's sitting between Ozzie and Acuna in a corner talking. They're just shooting shit, and there's like 5 of us reporters, 8 of us or whatever, and a TV crew comes over to get Arcia. They told Arcia we need to get the translator over there. We're going to get Arcia. So Acuna, you could tell he'd been waiting for this moment. He gets up and he hits Arcia on the shoulder, and he goes, "Attaboy, Arcia." It was great. It was great. It was perfect timing. So it was just good that they took it the way they did, back in the same place they ended the. So that's the way you got to come in, and where it ended the last 2 years. You lost game 3 and 4 each year in the NLDS. That's what you needed to do, is come in and kick their ass in the first 2 games.
Yep.
You lost today, but you still took the series. You let them know. I mean, serve notice.
You controlled the whole series too. I mean, they got a late win, but you were in charge of the whole series.
I mean, and you could argue that even though they won the first 2 were routes, that maybe for the course of the whole season, the most encouraging thing might have happened today with Chris Sale. I mean, what that means to this team. If Chris Sale's healthy, then what happened the last 2 years when you had 1 or 2 of your top starters injured or going in rusty or whatever to the postseason each year? If you've got Sale healthy for the postseason, you could lose. You don't want to, but you could have Fried or even Strider out, and you still got 2 really good frontline guys, and Charlie and Ronaldo Lopez. We don't know yet what he's going to do, but so far he's looked pretty damn good. So the depth is just at a whole nother level than it was with the starting rotation. And by the way, Bryce Elder goes 6 1/3 today, gave up 2 hits, nothing else. And AAA.
That's a tough spot to be in.
Yeah. And I talked to Charlie about that. a lot of the guys, a couple of the starting pitchers have talked about how bad they felt, unsolicited, how bad they feel for Bryce
Yeah.
and how they talked to Bryce and told him, you know, Charlie told him, just go down there, man, be on your program, have a good, just don't worry about getting back here. Just worry about doing your thing and having a good career, carving out a career, whether that's pitching for the Atlanta Braves or what. You don't, this is where what they want to have you here, but you got it. And you've talked about it too. You just got to go down there and keep doing your thing, man.
It's so hard. It's so frustrating to, yeah, especially like when you find it and you're back, but there's just not a spot for you
Yeah,
right
they're not a
now,
spot for
and
you.
you want to get called up while you're throwing like this. You want to get called up while you're hot and come up and make that impression and get to stay. And it turns into a waiting game. A lot of guys go down to that position and self-destruct.
Yeah.
They stop working hard. They're like, screw it. I'm not getting called up. I'm gonna go out tonight. Yeah, I'll pitch hungover, whatever. I mean, it's so easy to fall into a negative headspace. So I'm glad he had some guys to talk to him and kind of tell him how to go about it, because you never know what's going to happen in the game. And you
Yeah.
can get caught up. And if you're not ready, the worst possible thing to happen is if you're not ready and you haven't been working hard preparing for the moment that feels like it might never come. And then you get an opportunity, you come up and get bombed,
Yeah.
you're going right back down.
Yeah. Charlie said he had basically the same kind of discussions before with Soroka when, all the shit he went through. It's
Yeah.
like, man, your career might not usually, most guys' careers don't go exactly the way they want them to, and you're not
Mm-hmm.
going to stay with this team you wanted to be with. But that doesn't mean it changed your career. Worry about your career and making a good career for yourself. And that's what he told Soroka. And he said, because I look at what happened to me. I mean, he comes up, he makes the 16 starts with the Braves. That is a rookie, has a 6 ERA. They send him to AAA. He was pitching great at AAA when they called him up. Makes 16 starts with Braves, has a 6 ERA or 15 starts, whatever it was. Starts the next year in AAA, and he's pitching great again, but they're not bringing him up. That was when they had Tommy Hanson they brought up. They had,
Yep.
I think Jair was back then. Medlin was
Yep.
brought up, and they traded Charlie to Pittsburgh in the middle of the year.
Yep.
So it's like, here I am in Pittsburgh. And he goes, I knew I could do it, but I just didn't know, couldn't put it together yet. And he didn't have that confidence and all that yet. So that's what he's told those guys. So having a guy like Charlie around to be able to talk
Good
to
guy
those
to hear it
guys,
from.
man. Yeah. Cause he can say, look at me, man. I went through the same shit. It took, and he didn't really come in his own until he's in his 30s.
Yeah. And it hits so much harder when you look at a guy's career. He's giving you this advice. If John Smoltz is telling you that same story, I mean, you're going to listen, but Smoltz got called up,
Right.
and there he went.
Seamless.
Yeah. And so when you hear it from a guy telling you what your headspace should be and how you should be thinking about it and handling it, and they went through the exact thing that you're going through, and they
Yeah.
came out the other side and did well,
Yeah.
it just hits a little harder.
Yeah. Yeah. Some guy that's been through adversity again and again and again, like Charlie, and then to have, because they see him now and how good he is and
Yeah.
how admirable he is, and he's 40 years old and he's still a stud. And they're
Hmm.
like, yeah, I want to do that. So to be able to look at how much longer he struggled, I mean, they haven't scratched the surface of struggling compared to what Charlie did and all he
No.
went through, including Tommy John,
Yeah, I
everything.
remember being shocked when Charlie was pitching. It may not have been game 7, but he was pitching a huge game for the Astros. And I knew the Braves version,
Yeah.
and he went to Pittsburgh and did well, but he was pitching in the playoffs for the Astros. And I was like, man,
He did
their
finish
whole
game
season,
7.
their whole game comes down to Charlie Morton. I think it was
Yep.
out of Penn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
After
I'm like,
starting like 3 days before.
so I'm thinking that, like, man, their whole season's in Charlie's hands. And I'm thinking the guy I knew with the Braves, but he grown so much and turned into such a different pitcher and gotten so much better.
Yeah.
And the guy he is now, it's like you look back at that moment now, of course they brought him in. Look how nasty his slider was, his curveball, everything he knew how to do, he knew how
Yeah.
to use it. So that was a cool moment for me to see his growth, from when he was in Atlanta all the way through to who he is now. It's incredible.
He'll be starting this game if they get it in, if they somehow manage to get it in at some point on Monday. And he said if he's going to pitch in the cold, he prefers there be a little bit of moisture
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he said like the conditions in Philly those first couple of games, because I can't, the relievers coming in,
Can't grip it.
I can't, he can't grip the ball. So with his curveball, he said he prefers there be a little bit of moisture. So if they get it in, they're in good hands with him, I think. And if they were able to get 2 games in, Ronaldo Lopez would be pitching against his former team. But we'll see. We'll see if they do. And then they'll be opening at home against the Diamondbacks on Friday after a day off Thursday. So big week for the Bravos. They had a big series in Philly. And off to a good start, man. You can't go in there expecting to sweep them.
They
Would have been
almost did.
nice for them, but they had a hell of a series. This episode that was certainly fueled by coffee is brought to you by Joe Van Gogh's Coffee Blend number 44, honoring Hank Aaron. Visit joevango.com for more information. And that is it, 7:55 forever. We'll talk to you guys again at the end of the White Sox series, whenever that might be.